What is up, crap stains? JJ back here from Run Pure Bets. This time, talking a little Sweet 16 in the March Madness. Kicks off or starts on March 27th. I'm going to go through the 4 games for Saturday, and maybe, I'll have another video going through the other 4 games. Look, help a brother out. Give me some likes, comments here, and I'll do my best to make it happen. By the way, no one likes a quiet stalker. Also, no one likes anybody begging for likes or comments, but look, here I am. All right, so a lot of wackiness early on in this tournament, right? It's always to be expected, though. It's not, it's called March Madness. I dropped the Oklahoma State over play from last week's video, but we came back with a vengeance on Sunday's live show, hitting multiple bets. I cashed my Illinois team total under, fairly sweat-free, them losing to Loyola. My dad gave out quite a few winners as well. First half under in Loyola, full game under. Nova minus the 5.5, Bama minus the 5.5. The only drop play in the show was the Badgers plus 6.5 versus Baylor, but Holden was on the Baylor Bears as well. So look, someone on the show had to lose. A very profitable show though. If you did just watch, grab some popcorn and make some bets. Anyway, this is a new week, new us. Some fun matchups. Tip off here with Loyola being a pleasant surprise, along with the Pac-12 showing up big in this tournament. They'll get another chance to knock off a big team as well. Now, Villanova clearly better than most people thought coming in, and will aim to expose some holes in Baylor. Oral Roberts been a chalky dog in this tournament thus far, and they're still alive and kicking, going against second best SEC team now in Arkansas. Syracuse, who never seems to be an easy out in this tournament, draws Houston, who was all but eliminated versus Rutgers. They go ahead though and outscore Rutgers 16-4 down the stretch. To edge a 3-point win. Those are the breakdowns, guys. Thanks for watching. I kid. So my notes here tell me to talk about the Pac-12 and their success. So let's do that. Now, I don't know how many people coming into this tournament really thought the Pac-12 was going to do this. I believe 9-1 straight up. It's really been phenomenal. Colorado being the lone loss against Florida State. And look, Florida State with their trees, can you really blame Colorado? Colorado comes off a huge complete game versus Georgetown and then just kind of lays down versus Florida State's bigs. Overall, the Pac-12 has been great. Got a few fun matchups. Oregon USC is going to be the next day. I'm not going to really talk much on that game in this video. But the Pac-12 has really shown out in this tournament. And Oregon State's going to be able to kick things off against Loyola. Also, Lucas Oil Stadium is here in my notes to talk about. No games, I don't believe, either day is going to be played at this venue. But I think the Final Four might be. I'm not 100% sure. Either way, it's been a lot of unders at this gym, right? Or stadium, if you will. So something to just keep in mind once we start rolling with the Elite Eight, Final Four. Not to say you want to blindly bet unders in this place, but it's pretty clear there have been some shooters really struggling to find the nets at Lucas Oil. All right, so look, let me help you out with your blue balls here and start diving right into these games. So Loyola versus Oregon State. Loyola minus 6.5, total 125.5 is the current number. Loyola, or Loyola, as the cool kids say, take their talent over to the pleasantly surprising Pac-12 Oregon State Beavers. The Beavers picked up right where they left off from the Pac-12 tourney, right? They knock off talented Tennessee squad and then Oklahoma State Cowboys led by Cade. Now, this Beaver squad has just one loss since February 20th. It was to Oregon, another team making some noise in this tournament. After their big Iowa upset. Well, upset to some. We were on Oregon, of course, not to humble brag, but Oregon's just a tremendous team. I'm really looking forward. I know I won't talk about it much in this video, but I'm really looking forward to the Oregon-USC matchup. I just think those are two very good teams, and I think that there's a lot, you could look at that first matchup between those two and assume, USC probably rolls. They rolled them the first time, but, what an anomaly when they start 15-0 that game. Come on. It also wasn't a great spot for Oregon if we're talking timing-wise, but either way. And remember I said I wasn't going to talk much on Oregon-USC? Okay, so quite a different matchup here for Loyola grabbing Oregon State here than their previous one with Illinois. Now, to be clear, Illinois is a much better team than Oregon State, but matchup-wise, this one does pose some differences. Now, Oregon State's going to play much slower. Illinois tried to speed things up at times against Loyola. Like you even noticed if you were watching, Illinois tried to get in transition often. It just really wasn't working. It was working for short bursts, but man, this Loyola squad's super disciplined. Oregon State, though, it should be fun watching their offense here. They're no stranger to playing good defenses in that Pac-12 conference, but this is a whole other animal. They do have wins, Oregon State, against USC, Oregon, UCLA, 3 Pac-12 teams with good defenses also still playing into this madness tournament. Loyola is certainly a new element for this team, though, as I briefly mentioned defensively, just really from a discipline standpoint. The Loyola team isn't like going to freak you out with all these crazy athletes, but, just watch this team play. They don't miss a beat defensively. Really well coached by Porter Moser. And, look, expect no different in this one. Now, the only thing you could maybe question about Loyola coming into this game is, do you get like that hangover win, right? This is such a big win for Illinois. The argument is, like, maybe did the committee make the Loyola game tougher for Illinois, or did they make, the Illinois game tougher for Loyola? Either way, a lot of head-scratchiness with why that conference broke down, or that region broke down the way it did with Loyola, the 8th seed, Illinois, the 1 seed, even Tech as the 9th seed. But Loyola grabbed a bit of a lucky news, I guess, with Tech star being out for that game. Either way, people that thought Loyola may have been underseeded for this tournament, now they have the number 1 seed's path, right? And there's a ton of, could you imagine? We'll get to the Houston game later, but could you imagine Houston loses that game? Look at what that region would it be. What? No 1 seed, 2 seed, 3 seed, 4 seed, 5 seed, 6 seed, 7 seed. It's just wild. Anyway, game plan for the Beavers here. Going on tangents. It's like my middle name. The game plan here for the Beavers. Went a bit against the grain against Oklahoma State. This is a team that really likes to pile up assists. They have a lot of good ball movement. Only 7, though, against OK State. And again, this is one of the better ball movement teams in D1 from an assist per field goals made. They'll need to regain this form back as they play Loyola, though, as Loyola is going to give them nothing easy. Now, fouls is a big factor coming into this one. It's pretty glaring as far as the how the numbers play out. Loyola doesn't foul at all, and Oregon State allows teams to just live at the free throw line. So the Beavers' credit, the Ramblers just don't draw much contact, though, so maybe it neutralizes a bit. Now, Oregon State happens to be elite at the free throw line, so if they can just draw contact here, free throws in this game are going to be critical, especially in a predictable low-scoring game. Oregon State's got 5 guys that shoot 80% or better from the stripe, so drawing contact in the lane is going to be a very key for this team, especially against a very good defensive team in Loyola. Now, Oregon State has to use their superior length at each position to try to disrupt the flow of Loyola's offense. And on the OSU side offensively, got to make the right decisions with the basketball. We saw countless times Illinois just make bad decisions with the basketball. Now, Illinois has got a bunch of stars, right? So sometimes stars try to do the takeover thing, which doesn't really work, a little hero basketball, if you will. Oregon State's got to be disciplined. They got to be able to move the ball well around, get good looks. And, of course, when they do get great looks, those are going to have to fall. Loyola loves to slow games down and keep things low scoring and limit possessions. And on a per possession basis, Loyola's a really good squad. They proved that, and then some against Illinois. Loyola's constantly ready to draw offensive fouls in the lane. When and if OU decides to get too aggressive. And look, Loyola's going to throw a lot of different defensive looks. And they can really disrupt a team like OSU who tries to build momentum in this game. Now, both teams have various scorers. They're led by seniors. Thompson on the Oregon State side. Krutwig on the Loyola end. Interesting enough, I have this line at 6. So it's going to be a stay away spot for me. Granted, if it climbs to like 7.5, 8, I may jump in pre. But for me, I'm going to be looking at pace and how this plays out early on. I think this could play out overall very slow. I know it's like, oh, of course it is. The total is 125. But I mean like even slower than that. Baskets you would think were going to be a superior premium in this one. I'm interested to see how these two try to figure each other out early on. Maybe some heavy scoring starts early, and maybe the under might be a better live spot. I don't really like anything in this pre. Again, if this line shoots to 7.5, 8, maybe some extra Loyola money. Maybe there's some value in Oregon State, a team that's been really good defensively. In a tight game. This is a big number in a tight scoring game. So yeah, look, you math wizards right now, if the line's 7, I guess it's a point, if you're a calculator, in favor of OSU, but not enough for me to want to jump in pregame. All right, on to Villanova and Baylor. This game, current line, Baylor minus 7.5 total, 141.5. Now, this is actually my best bet for this game. FanDuel, New Jersey, the total. It's actually Baylor's team total. 74.5. Really, really like this under the number. Now, do keep in mind, so I get it. Baylor reigns in threes. Nova can't guard the 3. But there's a lot of things Nova does pretty well defensively. I know that they tend to struggle a bit from guarding the 3 ball. But I haven't loved what I've seen from Baylor recently. They got bailed out against Wisconsin, if you will. They get bailed out by countless turnovers in the first half. I think Wisconsin had 10 or 11 turnovers. Baylor was able to pour in 12 points off turnovers. And conveniently enough, or ironically enough, I think Baylor led by 12 or 14 at the half. Turnovers was the difference. Nova's the best team in the country at not turning the ball over. Now, I know Gillespie being out hurts, but this is still a Jay Wright coach team, a week to prepare. This is the NCAA tournament, his bread and butter. I expect him to have his guys, well prepared and do a bit extra, beyond the arc guarding. Now, I know that Nova's not exactly been a popular team coming into this tournament, right? Like Winthrop, they're supposed to lose, win by double digits. North Texas could give them a headache because North Texas gave Purdue a headache. I mean, that Nova game, there was a short, I'm trying to remember, there was a short span in that game, I want to say for a good 5 minutes, maybe, total. I'm not talking game minutes, I'm talking live watching minutes, where you actually could have got Nova -1.5. It might have even been at the first media timeout, now that I think about it. Either way, I mean, after that media timeout, woof, they just started blowing the doors off it. Now, they really started making it rain from three. Now, so, what do you make of that, right? Do you think you get maybe a laydown game here from them? Possible. So I line this game 6.5, but the main reason why I really like the team total under for Baylor is, first of all, Nova, this is a number. So 75 points is what Baylor needs, right, with this new total. And again, FanDuel Sportsbook in New Jersey has this number. It's a number Villanova's given up one time all year. Once. And it was a game where Creighton made it rain from three. So look, could you get a Baylor squad here that makes it rain from three? I guess. I personally would think Baylor's going to need 10 to 12 threes to go over this number. Probably even more, maybe 12 or 13. And the script to beating Nova, while they're poor from three, it's not like a lot of teams just fire up threes against them. I mean, they're ranked 294th in three-point attempts per field goal attempts on defense. So again, it's not like teams are choosing to live and die with the three against them. So they're clearly better than their numbers show from beyond the arc. Now, I know 35%, but look, let's be honest. Big East has some teams that can really fire from three, right? Especially some players. So I'm not all that worried about their collective numbers. What I do like is really what I've seen from them down the stretch. I mean, ultimately, they've looked great in these two games in the tournament. And defensively, I mean, this team, even their backups, their backups come in and they're playing well with big leads. So I really think that Baylor's offense in particular has relied a lot on turnovers. Now, if we talk about what Baylor's done post the break, defensively, there's been some real holes in Baylor. I really feel like after watching them play a few games in this tournament, they may have closed those holes up. Now, I know that Hartford came close to going over their team total. Wisconsin, they come close to going over their team total. Okay? But I thought overall, with the limiting of possessions, Wisconsin tried to slow the game down. You can only do that so much, though, against Baylor. I thought that they really forced Wisconsin to make tough shots. I mean, Wisconsin did make quite a few tough shots. Hartford ran their offense what I'd consider relatively well. They just were missing a lot of shots. But that's to be said. I mean, against a team like Baylor, Hartford, right? With, all the major advantages a team like Baylor has in that game. But coming into this game in particular, with the steam that's moved this line recently, so I think it's opened 6, 5.5. Now it's 7.5. Total opens 139. Now it's, 141.5. Some places 142. Baylor team total 74.5 is such a smash number for me. So to me, it's just an auto bet under. And I really, again, look, I can't imagine Nova wants to get into a track meet with this team, right? So if I'm Jay Wright trying to draw up this game plan, I'm going to want to slow this game down, limit turnovers, be very good on the defensive glass. Don't let Baylor do any additional work on the offensive glass. Let Baylor fire up tough shots from three. Do your best to grab the rebound, slow the game down, move the ball up, keep this a half-court game as much as you can. And again, it's not like Nova it does wild things with the basketball. I know Gillespie hurts because was one of the primary ball handlers. His team's still very efficient at not turning the ball over. And I know Baylor forced a bunch of turnovers against Hartford, 25, I think. And then Wisconsin, it was another 14 or 15. But it was, if you watch the game, it was a lot of self-destructiveness on Wisconsin's end. I just don't expect to see that from Nova here. Now, as far as the spread, I guess if this climbed to 8.5, it becomes a bet, but I'm already going to be invested. I'm already invested in the team total for Baylor under, so that's going to be my spot I like. And it's actually my best bet for this game. You're coming here if you're looking for players, player names and stats and stuff. I've never done that on this channel, so don't expect that to happen anytime soon. I don't really do that with any sport. I mean, maybe NFL once in a while. But for me, again, keep it teams, keep it numbers. For me, with the steam, becomes an auto bet for me on Baylor's team total under. Not a super popular play, not a lot of fun to watch making that bet either, but, either way, it's favorable for me. Okay, so next game, Oral Roberts, Arkansas. Yeah, I mean, what do we make of this Oral Roberts team? So, Oral Roberts, 11.5 point dog here. What's the total? 159, I think. Yeah, 159. Again, Arkansas minus 11.5. Arkansas is a team I've liked to make the Final Four. Ultimately they would be matched up with Baylor. I have them in a few brackets making the Final Four. Of course, beating Baylor. But this is an interesting spot, and I say this because Oral Roberts, in the game against Ohio State misses free throws down the stretch, which pushes Oral Roberts into a win. Now, you can't discredit what Oral Roberts did. And look, Admis has been tremendous for them. Again, you're not going to reference many players but he's a big difference maker for the squad. And look, he's projected himself into becoming an NBA talent, right? I mean, this was a guy that was on the outside looking in, and now likely will make a team come NBA draft day. And then they beat Florida, a game where Florida was leading like 10 or 11 with 9 minutes left, and Florida just kind of like coasted. Now, watching the game, I mean, it felt like the refs gave Oral Roberts a few extra calls. Now, I don't know if it was on purpose or egregious, whatever. I'm sure if you bet Oral Roberts, I'm sure you didn't notice it that way. But it just kind of like a lot of calls were swing calls that went against Florida late. No excuses. Florida just got to close a game like that out, and I would consider that game poorly coached down the stretch as well. But look, credit Oral Roberts. They made shots when they had to. They did the same thing against Ohio State. Now, Ohio State did them some favors missing free throws. Florida was pretty undisciplined late in that game too. So look, if Arkansas is going to make similar mistakes in this one, I mean, it could happen again, right? We can keep the Golden Eagles train rolling. But okay, this is a different matchup, right, than what Oral Roberts has seen so far. Okay, they play Florida, who's very man heavy, if you will, a Trey Man. They rely a little bit too much on him. Ohio State, just shot like shit. I mean, better, could use better verbiage, yeah, right? But ultimately, they just really shot really poorly. Will Arkansas do the same? I mean, Arkansas's had some head scratchings to them too, right? I mean, for a moment there, they looked like they might have lost to Colgate, and then they just go on a big spurt at the end of the first half and end up winning the game handedly, right, late. And then Texas Tech, they start out again slow, but then come on late in that first half, and then, a good back and forth. Like, this was a really good game for Arkansas against Tech in terms of, like, a confidence builder. They could pull out a close win against a good team. And by the way, I'll talk briefly on this. Arkansas was a fairly popular play. I say popular because, overall, I would consider a public play. But people liked Arkansas over Tech, right? But that line was seeing quote-unquote reverse line movement, right? The line's going -2. Tech closed, I think, at 2.5. Don't ever use that alone as a way to handicap. Oh, all the sharp money is on Texas Tech, so I guess I should be betting Texas Tech. How many of these games have to lose before people, realize it doesn't matter? Bet who you want at good numbers. If you liked Arkansas, yeah, you could have bet them right before tip at 2.5. It's a great number, okay? If you like Tech, bet them early. Could have got pick or, -1.5 or maybe Tech +1. I guess what I'm getting at is, in the long story short, reverse line movement is irrelevant. Focus on yourself, your numbers, or people you trust. If you trust them, great. Hopefully they can get you the best numbers they can consistently, and you can be on profit. But the idea that, I'm just going to fade this spot because the quote-unquote public is all over it. I mean, how many of these games have to lose before people realize this shit doesn't matter? Again, tangents, sorry. Okay, so this spot with Oral Roberts. So Oral Roberts, we know what they do, right? They take a few dribbles at half court and just start launching threes. This team's just got snipers everywhere. I think, 6 guys that shoot 38% or better. They got a good leader, again, in Admis. But how long can this sustain? I mean, they win a really close game against Florida that I'd argue they shouldn't have won. They win a really close game against Ohio State that I'd argue they shouldn't have won. And when I say shouldn't have won, I mean, I don't mean in the spread they shouldn't have won. I mean, how the game played out late, they shouldn't have won. Now, at some point, you have to give this team credit for, despite being down 4-6 points with 4 or 5 minutes left, I think in back-to-back games, they still find a way to pull out a dub, right? This team's not very good at piling up assists. Now, the thing with this game, again, Arkansas is going to run with this team. Florida does like to play fast, but, Arkansas is a whole nother tempo. And Ohio State relatively plays slow. They'll run with teams, but they don't really play fast, but, generally. Arkansas plays faster than Oral Roberts. I'd argue everything Oral Roberts tries to be, Arkansas is better at. They've got better athletes, better shooters as a team. Now granted, sure, the numbers might not be. They might not have the surface number of, 6 guys that shoot 38% or better, but they play in a tougher conference. So what do you make of the game, right? So it's total is 159. If I'm going to give you a lean, okay, Oral Roberts team total sitting at 34.5 for the first half. I like that over. Okay, it's what I would consider a slight lean. Okay, the reason I do this is because Oral Roberts has gone over this number twice in this tournament. They've gone over that number in the first half a ton this year. And again, Arkansas is only going to speed this game up. Arkansas is going to concede good looks. The big hit on Arkansas, much like Villanova in Arkansas's defense, because Arkansas is a top 10 defense as per KenPom, KenPom.com. A little love for my boy Ken Pomeroy. As per his numbers, Arkansas is the 10th best defense, and where they're a little lax is defending the 3. This is not exactly a team to be doing that against. Now, you argue maybe Oral Roberts deals with some nerves early on, but where have these nerves been to date? I mean, why now? Why would they start dealing with nerves now? We know Arkansas is going to run. We know Oral Roberts is going to run. So on a per possession basis, sure, Arkansas is going to be better than this team, or should be. It's a one-game sample, so anything can happen. But Musselman, I expect, will have Arkansas ready to go, especially against this squad. Now, Paul Mills for Oral Roberts done such a great job with this team. I mean, God forbid they win this game. I mean, Paul Mills is going to have himself quite a few offers to think about in the offseason. I mean, he might have them already, but on a per possession basis, Arkansas should roll this team. And now 11.5 is a big number. They could win by 10, quote unquote roll. They could be up by double digits most of the game, win by 10, and most would consider it a roll, but they won't cover. I'm not going to pick a spread here, but again, if you're looking for a lean, Oral Roberts to go over 33.5 or 34.5. I think it's 34.5. I don't have the number in front of me. To me, it's a nice spot because they'd have to shoot pretty poorly in the first half to not get over that number. I think there's a real possibility, depending how this tempo goes and shot selection from Arkansas, because that's the big problem with Arkansas, right? Their shot selection. At least Oral Roberts in this tournament, they move the ball around, they swing, open guy, boom, pops. Arkansas tends to play a little selfish at times. It's one of their demises. And when you look at their numbers, like you would think Arkansas would move the ball better than Oral Roberts, but in this tournament, Oral Roberts has been much better moving the ball around and getting good open looks. Arkansas goes into these droughts, and they've started games in these droughts early on where they don't score. And it's a problem for a team like Arkansas that speeds the game up, and you're not scoring. That means other teams just piling up possessions. But again, I liked what I saw versus Tech. They went down again early, much like they did against Colgate, and they showed resilience. This could happen again against Oral Roberts if they blink. Could go down double digits again. But overall, I think this Arkansas team's proven that they don't mind going down in games. They battle back, which is important. But again, reason why I like the Oral Roberts first half versus the game. I've seen this Arkansas team really lock down in the second halves of games. I'm not saying it's going to happen here. I've just seen it happen in the tournament thus far. If Oral Roberts can get out and make some shots early, get a little confidence, like what's been happening with teams that play Arkansas in this tournament. I just think it's a small number. Temple's going to be there. Oral Roberts would have to probably shoot about 34, 35%-ish, 35, that magic number, to go over. To not go over, because they're going to just rain in threes. Whether they fall or not, it'll be ultimately if this covers, if you get there. But I do like that spot. First half over, 34.5. Okay, so last but not least, Houston versus Syracuse. What's the line on this? So Houston 6.5, total 140. Well, two enigmas, if you will. So Syracuse this time of year just always seems to be here in this tournament. Sweet 16 again, for Jim Boeheim. It's always nice seeing his kid play well for him. I remember the Creighton days with McDermott. It's always nice seeing teams like this do well with the coach's kid. I will say this, though. Syracuse in their first half versus West Virginia, I think Boeheim might have made one shot. He might have been like 1 for 7, maybe a few extra points from the free throw line. I don't remember exactly. This team still was up pretty decent, a good chunk, without Boeheim playing well. Now, it was pretty evident they needed Boeheim to play well at some point in that game, and he did. Had a huge second half. This is a confident team led by a very streaky shooter. This is not exactly a team Houston should be, looking past, if you will, despite this number at 6.5. Will Syracuse zone give Houston issues? I mean, it's possible. Syracuse zone seems to always give teams issues in this tournament. Now, West Virginia made some good adjustments in the second half. You expected that, though, from Bob Huggins, but San Diego State was lost against this zone. Houston, I don't expect that, but one thing on Houston, before I dig into the zone conversation or dig more into the zone conversation, you see this often with teams that end up winning the national championship. They are basically all but drawing dead in one of these earlier rounds. You saw with Virginia a few years back, where it felt like Virginia was in 3 or 4 games that they should have lost by the time they ended up winning the national championship. Houston was dead to rights in that Rutgers game. And granted, sure, drawn dead, maybe not. But you're talking double digits with 10 minutes left. You're talking 8 points with 8 minutes left. You're talking 4 or 5 points with 4 minutes left. They just really clamped down late in that game. And Rutgers went from playing really good basketball to really timid. And it was almost like a team in Rutgers that wasn't nervous at all game long. And then when they realized how close they were to victory, they just got real nervous. Credit to Houston, though, who was dealing with multiple player injuries in that game. Giroux, his hip was in and out of the game. Quentin Grimes was just a great player for them. He got hurt and came back in. Just a real gritty performance from this squad. Now, they're well coached. We know Kelvin Sampson does a great job with this team. They're great on offense, great on defense. But what do we make of this Syracuse squad? So Houston, is really good defending the three. But, look, they play in the American. There's very few teams in that conference that shoot well from three. So what does that really mean? I didn't like at all what I saw from them versus Rutgers. I felt like Rutgers did a lot. I felt like Rutgers ran their offense really well against Houston. And then, sure, Houston got good looks on offense, and a lot of shots weren't falling. But I felt like Rutgers, and again, if you watched the game, I'm sure you could have noticed, Rutgers was getting good looks. It wasn't like you could have been watching the game and you could have been wow, Rutgers, this is unbelievable, the shots they're making. They were all pretty good looks. Look close under the basket, good looks from three. Rutgers deserves to be in this game with how they played. But, look, you got to credit Houston. And again, like I said about the tournament and the future of teams that win these types of games, they really shouldn't. It used to project well for teams like this, and it's a big momentum boost. You kind of taking a deep breath, after that game's over, and I'm sure Houston was happy to run away with that win. Houston's big problem, right? They foul. Okay, they probably foul a bit too much for a team that wants to make a deep run. Okay, they're a bit too handsy, and they're in a conference where they shouldn't have been as handsy, but they were. The good part is Syracuse doesn't really draw contact, right? So this game is going to be won and lost with how Syracuse's offense can run, because Syracuse, their offense has run pretty well in this tournament. Thus far, and they had the one hiccup versus Virginia in a game they maybe shouldn't even have lost. But this team's been playing really good. They've one loss since March 1st, and they've been a really good team. And Boeheim's going to coach them well this time of year. They do tend to live and die with the three a bit, which worries you if you're going to back them. But this is a big number, right? 6.5. My thing is, when a team like Houston comes after a game like Rutgers, like I said, it's a big deep breath moment. Now, I lined this game at 6, so for me at 6.5, again, nothing to love. I'd love to sit here and say, yeah, I lined this game at 2, and you got to pound Houston. Or you got to pound Syracuse, excuse me. But for me, I can't bet this at the current number. The total for me, I have fair as well. As far as live spots, I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. This is not going to be a game I bet. It's just, there's nothing for me. There's no value in this game for me to bet. And I don't want to try to predict on what Syracuse is going to do from three, if Buddy Boeheim's going to heat up. Buddy buckets, if you will. If Houston can kind of get their head out of their ass from the game they played against Rutgers, and if they can, kind of figure things out on the offensive end, play better on the defensive end, Syracuse is going to fire up threes. And also, I look at the Syracuse first half. Against West Virginia, where Buddy Boeheim played really poorly. Joseph Girard, I think makes 4 threes, and 2 of them were from the logo. How can you really expect this from this kid? There was a lot of things, especially in that first half. Guys were just making it rain from 3, not named Buddy Boeheim. And will that be there again for them? I don't know. And if it's not there, can Buddy Boeheim carry this team again? There's just a lot of question marks with this Syracuse team. Now, the zone's good. Maybe argue under, but the problem is Syracuse loves to push the pace. And Houston's proven, which is actually, it's odd though, right? Because Syracuse in this zone, under Boeheim, this is one of the fastest tempo teams that I can remember. But when teams like to push it against Houston, Houston has no problem running with them. So I don't want to try to predict the tempo of this game, because if this plays out fast, This game will shoot over 140 without issue. Overall, and I'm going tangent without a lot of cream of the crop, if you will. This is going to be a stay-off spot for me. I'm interested in watching this game, though, because first of all, the winner of this game draws, either Loyola or Oregon State, and I'd argue that the winner of this game, gets to the Final Four. I think that Loyola's been on a good run. I mean, God forbid they slip up against Oregon State. And I know that Loyola will probably be, 5.5 versus Syracuse or 5 versus Syracuse. It'll probably be close to a pick-em versus Houston. But I do believe the winner of this game gets to the Final Four. So I'm interested in watching this game, but there's going to be no bet from me on it. So again, guys, the best bet for me is Baylor's team total under 74.5. I also gave you a lean as well for me that I like with Oral Roberts' first half team total going over at the 34.5 number. I hope you found this content helpful. Again, I sometimes go off on different tangents and such, but it's just par for the course. But I do want to thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed, thumbs up. Create some fake accounts more. Thumbs up. If you did not enjoy, I hope you lose every single bet you make this weekend. As always, drop comments below with your thoughts on the vid. Give your boy a like on the video. Be sure to subscribe as well if you're not already. We've got daily NBA videos with Spread and Tyler and the DFS crew as well. Daily MLB with Joey, previewing each division along with UFC interviews weekly. With UFC fighters, live shows with Jay, aka the Keg, including NASCAR and more UFC breakdowns. Either way, tell your family and friends about us. I would tell my family and friends, but they're all in jail. Anyways, thanks for watching. Best of luck with all your bets. Be sure to gamble responsibly, and as always, stay safe, folks.